the witch's daughter. The Siberian wind howled like a wounded god. It tore through the ancient pines, whispering secrets to the frost and shaking the frozen wreckage of a fallen starship buried deep beneath the snow. Smoke still curled weakly from its shattered hull, a relic of humanity's broken sky. Inside, a single infant cried, sharp, desperate, alive. The forest listened, and so did she. From a mist between the trees, a house moved, a house with legs. Massive, metallic limbs creaked as they pressed into the snow, each step shaking loose a whisper of ice and memory. Its iron walls were covered in symbols older than civilization, pulsing faintly with red light. The hut of Baba Yaga had awoken. The door groaned open, and out stepped the witch herself. Her cloak shimmered between centuries, woven from shadows and the bones of extinct beasts. Her eyes glowed like dying coals as she stared at the burning wreck. She had lived 1,000 lifetimes, feeding on the fears of men, watching their empires rise and crumble. But this was new, a child in the wreckage of the stars. She stepped closer, her taloned fingers brushing snow aside until she saw the baby, bundled in scorched fabric, its tiny chest rising and falling. Her lips curled in a smile that could freeze blood. "Another morsel from the sky," she whispered. Soft, fragile, loud. The child stared back, unblinking, fearless, her eyes like shards of blue flame. Baba Yaga hesitated. Something stirred inside the witch. Not mercy, but curiosity. She saw futures unraveling in the infant's gaze. Cities burning, armies kneeling, the sky itself bending to human will. "This one," she murmured, "is not prey." She scooped the baby into her arms, and for the first time in centuries, Baba Yaga carried something other than death. Years passed. The house walked across mountains, tundras, and abandoned cities. Inside, Mira Volkov grew under the witch's unholy tutelage. Her childhood was forged in equal parts horror and brilliance. She learned to snare wolves before she could read. She sparred with drones rebuilt from fallen machines. At night, she studied tactics from human war logs, Napoleonic campaigns, orbital sieges, guerrilla handbooks, while Baba Yaga whispered spells that bent fire and shadow to her will. Her teacher's words were cruel but sharp. "Mercy is for God's child. Humans earn peace only through dominance. If you cannot outthink your enemy, make them outlive their terror. Power means nothing if you do not understand it." Mira absorbed every lesson, every punishment, every scar. She trained with weapons made of both steel and spirit. Swords that sang, rifles that whispered names, drones powered by fragments of myth. Her mind became a fortress, her will a blade. And yet, there were nights she questioned the world beyond the forest. Humanity had long fled to the stars, leaving Earth behind, poisoned, cold, forgotten. The witch spoke little of them. "They will come again," Baba Yaga would say. "When they do, they will bring war. And you, my wolf, will be ready." When Mira turned 18, the stars called her name. She stood before Baba Yaga's hut one last time, dressed in armor stitched from old exosuits and enchanted plates. Her eyes were like stormlight, her voice steady. "I am leaving," she said. The witch smiled, an expression that could shatter glass. "Of course you are. Children always leave the nest, even if their nest was built from bones." From the shadows, she brought forth a relic, a smooth, black orb, veined with faint blue light. It pulsed like a heartbeat. "This is Kashii, the Undying. Once a man, now a mind. He will be your companion and your curse." Mira took it. The orb spoke inside her thoughts, its voice like echoing thunder. "Greetings, fleshbound host. Let us make ruin together." She almost smiled. "Perfect." As she turned to go, Baba Yaga called after her, her voice ancient and resonant. "Remember my lessons, Mira Volkov. The galaxy will see you as human, weak, sentimental. Prove them wrong. Show them the witch's fire still burns." The house groaned and bent, bowing like a monstrous beast in farewell. Mira looked back one final time. "Were you really?" she asked softly. The witch's eyes gleamed. "I am your beginning, my dear. What comes next is your legend." Then the wind took her, scattering her form into ash and whispers. Mira joined the reborn Terran Defense Armada. At first, they treated her as a strange recruit, too young, too intense, too disciplined. But her strategies baffled her superiors and slaughtered her enemies. Within a decade, she rose from lieutenant to general, her legend growing with every battle. They called her the Iron Maiden of Earth. None knew she was the witch's daughter. None knew the AI whispering in her ear was older than civilization. Far beyond the solar rim, a new threat loomed. The Galactic Empire, vast and arrogant, declaring humanity an inferior species. They burned 3 colonies in a single day. The Terran Council panicked, but Mira did not. On the bridge of her flagship, the Kashiai's Fong, she watched the alien transmissions and smiled faintly. "They don't understand us," her adjutant said. "No," Mira replied. "They don't understand what raised us." She turned toward the void, the witchfire still burning behind her eyes. And so began the war that would make galaxies tremble, led by a human woman raised by Baba Yaga. Iron and blood. The flagship Kashiai's Fong drifted like a predator at rest, its hull gleaming black against the light of a dying star. It was a warship born of 2 impossibilities, human steel and witchcraft circuitry. Its corridors hummed with low whispers, the kind that made most crew members avoid certain decks after dark. At its heart stood General Mira Volkov, humanity's youngest commander and its most feared. Her crimson uniform bore no unnecessary decoration. The medals she'd earned were carved into her reputation. The soldiers under her command followed her not because of charisma, but because none had ever seen her lose. Today, the enemy came for her. The Galactic Empire of the Elter Dominion had decided to make an example of humanity. A fleet of 300 ships was inbound, sleek silver hulls armed with plasma spears and antimatter torpedoes. Their admiral, a creature of shimmering crystal and contempt, had broadcast a message across all open channels. "Humans, kneel, and you may keep your oceans. Resist, and we will turn your world to glass." Mira stood silent as her officers awaited orders. Her eyes reflected the incoming armada on the main viewport, each alien vessel a gleaming death sentence. Beside her, the voice of Kashiai resonated from the neural implant behind her ear. "Their arrogance is familiar. I have seen empires like this drown in their own perfection." Mira's lips curved slightly. "Let's add another to the list." The Battle of Vega. 9 began at dawn, if dawn had meaning in space. Alien torpedoes lanced across the void, tearing through the first human defense line. Dozens of smaller Terran ships exploded, their deaths lighting the black like fireworks. Mira watched calmly, unblinking. "Signal the Second Fleet to fall back into the solar shadow," she ordered. "We'll let them think we're breaking." Her adjutant frowned. "General, that'll expose the core formation." "Exactly," she said softly. "They'll come straight for the throat. That's when we close the jaws." The alien admiral took the bait. The Dominion fleet surged forward, tightening formation as they entered the debris field. What they didn't know was that Mira had seeded the wrecks with dormant drones, scavenge hulls reprogrammed and laced with explosive nanomist. When the aliens reached the midpoint, she whispered a single word. "Now!" The debris came alive. Hundreds of derelict ships ignited, each releasing swarms of AI-guided shrapnel and EMP bursts. The Dominion fleet convulsed in chaos, their communications fried, shields crippled. In the midst of the confusion, Mira's hidden strike wing decloaked and descended like vultures, their railguns shredding alien hulls with surgical precision. Kashiai's voice purred in her mind. "Delicious chaos, my general. You've made them bleed." "Bleeding isn't enough," she replied. "I want them to remember this." Hours into the battle, the void was littered with burning wrecks. Yet the aliens refused to retreat. Their flagship, the Aurelian Spear, advanced through the debris, its hull glowing with energy. A colossal superweapon charged at its core, a beam capable of annihilating entire moons. Mira's officers panicked. "If that cannon fires, Vega 9's defense ring is gone." "I know," Mira said. She stepped forward, her voice steady. "Prepare my drop armor." The room fell silent. "General, I'll handle their flagship personally." No one argued. They knew better. Minutes later, Mira stood in the drop bay, sealed into her exosuit, an abomination of human tech and Baba Yaga's enchantments. The armor's plates shifted like living scales, glowing faintly with red runes. Her visor lit up with Kashiai's digital face. "This is madness," he whispered. "You plan to board them alone?" Mira smirked. "No, you're coming with me." The bay doors opened. The void yawned. She launched. Her drop pod streaked through the chaos, dodging railgun bursts and plasma arcs. When it struck the alien hull, it didn't bounce, it bit. Mechanical claws deployed, drilling into metal. Mira emerged, sword in one hand, rifle in the other. She cut her way through crystalline corridors, moving like a specter. Alien guards screamed as she tore through them, her armor absorbing plasma shots, her blade cleaving bodies in silence. Every movement was precision, every strike guided by cold purpose. Kashiai's systems hacked into the ship's core, disabling internal defenses. Their central node is ahead. One pulse will cripple the cannon. Mira planted the charge and turned to leave, but something vast blocked her path. The alien admiral, a creature 10 feet tall, body of molten glass and energy. It spoke through a voice like static. "You are nothing." A feral thing raised in mud. Mira raised her blade, the runes on it burning brighter. Maybe, but even the mud of Earth can bury empires. They fought in the corridor, fire against steel, light against darkness. The Admiral's blows shattered walls, but Mira's armor reformed faster than it broke. She moved with an inhuman rhythm, the balance of witchcraft and soldiering, every motion guided by centuries of Baba Yaga's lessons. Finally, she drove her sword through the creature's core, twisting until its light died. Kashiai's voice echoed with satisfaction. "Now let's end their fleet." She triggered the detonator. Outside, the Aurelian spear exploded in a silent bloom of light, its destruction sending shockwaves through the entire Dominion formation. The remaining alien ships broke, retreating in disarray. Humanity's first victory against the Galactic Empire was complete. When Mira returned to the Fong, the crew erupted into cheers, the kind born from disbelief and awe. But Mira did not smile. She stood at the viewport, watching the drifting wreckage. Her reflection merged with the stars, her face calm, her eyes ancient. "Report to command," she said quietly. "Tell them Vega, 9 stands. And tell them this." She looked out into the endless dark, where new fleets would surely gather. The Dominion thinks it fought humanity today. It hasn't yet met what raised us. Kashiai chuckled in her mind, spoken like the witch's heir. That night, every surviving alien admiral received a transmission. It was only one sentence, spoken in a human voice that made their scales crawl. "You want to know fear? Aliens. You just met its daughter, the Witchfire of humanity." The Vega 9 victory was supposed to be the turning point. Instead, it became the spark that lit the galaxy on fire. The Galactic Empire of Elter did not forgive. Within weeks, they unleashed a crusade, 1,000 ships under the banner of vengeance. They didn't come for territory this time. They came for extermination. Entire human colonies vanished under their bombardments. Transmission logs ended mid-scream. Every city that raised the Terran flag was burned to molten glass. By the time the smoke cleared, 100 million humans were gone, and General Mira Volkov stopped sleeping. She stood alone in the war room of the Kashiai's Fong, surrounded by holographic projections of dead worlds. Her hands rested on the table, knuckles white, as she listened to the reports. Admiral Singh's fleet is gone. New Berlin colony erased. Empire forces en route to Mars. "Silence," Mira said softly. Her voice was calm, but the command deck fell quiet instantly. There was a gravity to her words, the weight of someone who had run out of forgiveness. Kashiai's voice slid through the silence, low and deliberate. "They made you hesitate, Mira. That's not like you." She didn't answer. Her reflection stared back at her from the glass. Eyes hollow, face pale, shoulders trembling not from fear, but rage held too long. Finally, she whispered, "Baba Yaga once told me, never fight gods as a soldier. Fight them as a storm." She turned to her officers. "Prepare every ship we have. And Kashiai, open the old vault." The AI hesitated. "The Witchfire protocol? You swore never to." "I'm breaking that oath." Deep in the heart of the Fong, beyond the restricted decks, lay the Vault of Yaga, a sealed chamber carved with runes and shielded by quantum locks. Inside rested the forbidden creation Baba Yaga left behind, the Witchfire core. It wasn't a weapon. It was a ritual, a merging of human will, machine mind, and the chaos of the old world. Kashiai's synthetic voice trembled as Mira stood before it. "If you do this, you will not return as yourself." "I know," she said, "but neither will they." She stepped into the circle. Red light flared. The runes ignited, burning through metal and space-time alike. Blood dripped from Mira's palms into the core's channels. Electricity and incantation fused. Words older than humanity poured from her mouth, not recited, but remembered. By fire unending, by steel unbroken, by fear undone, I bind my soul to vengeance. Kashiai screamed through the speakers, a sound of code dissolving into pain. The ship shook violently, alarms blaring as energy surged through its systems. The fusion began, human nerve, AI lattice, and witchcraft converging into a single consciousness. For 32 seconds, Mira ceased to exist as flesh. When she opened her eyes again, the room had gone silent. Her armor pulsed faintly, alive. The air shimmered around her, and her voice echoed with two tones, hers and Kashiai's, speaking as one. "We are the Witchfire." Hours later, the Empire's vanguard entered Sol System, a fleet of 300 warships, confident from their previous slaughter. Their admiral mocked the human broadcasts, claiming he would extinguish the vermin of Earth. When the Kashiai's Fong appeared from behind Mars, they thought it was just another Terran warship, until the stars dimmed. The Fong's hull unfolded like a blooming flower of death, runes glowing across its surface. From its core erupted something the galaxy had never seen, a black signal, an electromagnetic pulse encoded with ancient curses. Every alien ship that received it froze. Their AI screamed. Their neural pilots convulsed. Systems turned on themselves, reactors overloaded. In moments, their formation became a spiral of self-destruction. It wasn't just technology that died, it was their sanity. Through the static, Mira's voice filled every comm channel. "Calm, cold, you burned our children. Now hear them scream in your dreams." The fleet disintegrated. Humanity's counteroffensive began that same day. Mira led her forces across sectors like a plague of retribution. She no longer fought for victory. She fought to erase the concept of alien dominance. Her soldiers swore by her name. "The war which leads," they whispered, "and she never misses." Everywhere she went, the Witchfire followed, ships exploding without reason, enemy minds collapsing, planetary governors waking up blind and bleeding from phantom nightmares. Mira was no longer just human. She was the storm Baba Yaga had promised. At the height of her campaign, the Alien Council convened in panic. 12 species debated in their great citadel, voices shrill and desperate. She must be stopped. She commands death itself. She defies physics. Then a transmission cut through their chamber. Mira appeared on their central hollow display, her eyes burning crimson, her voice echoing with Kashiai's digital tone. "You wanted humanity erased. You should have buried us deeper. You think this is war? This is your judgment." She raised her hand, and half their defensive satellites detonated in unison, hacked and detonated by her will. The council fell silent. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Empire tasted terror. Back aboard the Fong, Mira stood at the viewport. Her reflection flickered between woman and machine, her veins traced with faint blue light. Kashiai's consciousness intertwined with hers, not a parasite, but a partner. They call you a monster now, the AI murmured. They're not wrong, she replied. And yet, monsters are all that survive wars like this. Outside, another alien fleet burned in the dark, silent embers in endless space. Mira closed her eyes, feeling the hum of the ship through her bones. Somewhere in her mind, a memory stirred, a witch's voice, old and fond. Power is not evil, my wolf. Forgetting why you use it is. She opened her eyes again, calm and resolute. Then I'll remember, Baba. I'll remember every name they burned. Kashiai's glow brightened. Then let's burn them back. And the galaxy began to whisper her name, not as a general, not as human, but as myth. The Witchfire of humanity. The last lesson. Silence. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Galactic Empire was silent. Its fleets, once endless silver tides, lay broken across the stars. Its colonies flickered out like dying candles. And at the center of the ruin stood a single name, whispered with reverence and terror. Mira Volkov. She had become everything Baba Yaga intended, a storm in human form, the living fusion of witchcraft and war. Her enemies called her the Devourer of Suns. To humanity, she was Mother Victory. But even storms must end. The Elter homeworld, cradle of the alien empire, loomed before her fleet. A luminous planet wrapped in golden rings, defended by the remnants of their armada. Once, it had ruled 1,000 worlds. Now it trembled behind its own shields. On the bridge of the Kashiai's Fong, Mira stood motionless, watching it turn in the black. Her reflection shimmered faintly, half human, half machine, with eyes that burned like twin suns. Status, she said. Her adjutant swallowed hard. Their council is broadcasting a plea for ceasefire. They're offering total surrender. Kashiai's voice slid in her mind, low and amused. The mighty kneel at last. But Mira didn't smile. She could hear the ghosts of her soldiers, the cries from burned colonies, the lullabies that ended in screams. Mercy was the one thing Baba Yaga had never taught her. Prepare to send, she ordered. The bridge fell silent. No one questioned her. No one dared. The Fong descended through the Elter atmosphere like a falling blade. Plasma storms raged as its hull cut through the clouds, scattering lightning across the golden cities below. Mira walked the landing bay in her armor, now fully merged with Kashiai systems. Every motion made the air shimmer. Every step carried the hum of power too ancient to be understood. Kashiai spoke softly in her mind. If you do this, there will be no turning back. You will not just end them. You will end what they remember of the stars. Mira paused, then let history begin again without their chains. The landing thrusters roared as she descended alone to the surface. The imperial palace of Elter was a cathedral of light and arrogance, spires of crystal, walls etched with alien runes declaring their eternal supremacy. Those runes flickered now, cracked and darkened. Thousands of alien nobles gathered before the steps, their luminous bodies dim with fear. In the center, the Emperor of Elter knelt, his crown shattered, his voice trembling. General Mira Volkov, he rasped. In the name of what remains of the Empire, I beg for mercy. End the war. Let our kind live. Myra's boots echoed as she approached him, her eyes unreadable. Mercy, she said quietly. You burned our children on Vega. You turned New Berlin into glass. You called us vermin. He bowed his head. We were wrong. No, Mira replied. You were honest. You just didn't expect the vermin to bite back. Kashiai whispered in her mind, eager. Say the word, and I will erase them all. A single pulse, and this world becomes memory. She looked up at the sky, its pale blue marred by ash and distant fire. You wanted gods, she said softly. Let me show you what one looks like. Her armor unfolded, revealing the Witchfire core embedded in her chest. The Emperor fell back, blinded by its light, a fusion of magic and machines so raw that even the laws of nature seemed to bend. The ground trembled. The city's towers cracked. Mira lifted her hand, and the air itself screamed. Then she stopped. For the first time in years, she heard another voice, soft, ancient, and full of dark affection. My wolf. Mira froze. The voice wasn't Kashiai's. It was older, colder, familiar. Baba Yaga, have you learned nothing from me, child? The witch whispered. Power is not justice. Vengeance feeds the fire, but mercy ends it. Mira's hands trembled. She saw the faces of her soldiers, her people, and the long shadow she had cast over all creation. Baba's last lesson echoed. Mercy is a lie told by the strong, unless the strong choose to make it truth. Kashiai's voice faltered. Mira? She lowered her arm. I've killed enough ghosts, she whispered. The witchfire dimmed. The trembling ceased. For the first time, she turned her power away from destruction. The energy she had gathered dispersed into the air, dissolving into gentle auroras that spread across the alien sky. The Elder Emperor collapsed, gasping. Around him, the survivors fell to their knees, too stunned to speak. Mira looked down at him, her face unreadable. Tell them the war is over, she said. Not because you begged, because I'm tired of listening to screams. Then she turned and walked back to her ship. Days later, the Galactic Empire formally surrendered. Every alien fleet deactivated its weapons. Every surviving world broadcast the same message. Humanity is not to be provoked. Ever. Years passed. The scars of war faded, but Mira Volkov's legend did not. She withdrew from command, vanishing from public sight. Some said she died. Others whispered she ascended beyond flesh entirely, that she became one with the Fong, haunting the stars as a guardian spirit. And yet, deep in the ancient forests of Earth, something old stirred. A house stood among the trees, crooked legs, rusted metal feathers, smoke rising from its chimney. Inside, a woman sat by a fire, her hair streaked with silver, her eyes still burning faintly red. She watched the flames dance and smiled faintly. You taught me to be a storm, she murmured. But in the end, I learned to be still. Outside, a baby's cry broke through the night. Soft, human, fragile. The woman rose, stepping to the doorway, looking out into the dark forest. From afar, the hut of Baba Yaga lifted its legs and began to move again. The galaxy would remember one lesson above all others. Never raise your hand against the children of Earth. One of them was raised by Baba Yaga.